God bless you in a very special and glorious way. My name is Walter Isaiah Smith, and I cannot stop marveling at what is happening. We are reaching a large part of Spanish-speaking people with a touch of the power of God. Thanks to all these testimonies of power, and to Him is all the glory. What began as something small is impacting a large part of the globe in a way that I can only attribute to the work of the Lord. Likewise, I thank the Lord Jesus Christ every day for having rescued me from the dark world of Satanism, witchcraft and the occult. Today I want to talk to you about something that when mentioned makes many feel a chill: Beelzebub, Satan and Lucifer, entities that when naming them one feels something strange in the air, but thank God we are under the blood of Christ that protects us. I want to delve into who these beings are and clarify some misconceptions that many have. We will start with Beelzebub, who is not it is a small or harmless figure as some think. He is not a minor demon or something that can be taken lightly. We are talking about a principality, a spiritual entity with supernatural powers and a huge evil influence. They are not entities that can be ignored or trivialized. The reality is that they operate at very high levels of evil and their reach is vast. To better understand who is Beelzebub, we need to go back to biblical times, specifically to the curse of Canaan. Many think that Noah cursed his son, but in reality the curse fell on his grandson Canaan. Although he had not yet been born, that curse was so strong that even before his birth his destiny was sealed. Canaan became a key figure because from him emerged several races, among them the Cushites, the Ethiopians and other peoples of cured skin. However, the curse did not only affect Canaan and his descendants in physical terms. Before he was born, 9 fallen spiritual races of the supernatural world had descended to earth. These entities were banished and felled, and Canaan was directly influenced by them from birth. These entities connected with him and his race, affecting the way the Canaanites lived and developed. The Canaanites invoked different types of spirits and entities. Among these were spiritual giants known as the Nephilim, the fallen. One of the main beings they invoked was Beelzebub, who became the main god of Canaan. This evil being ruled over the 8 fallen races that mixed with the Canaanites, and his power was indisputable. Beelzebub was not only worshipped in Canaan, but his influence extended throughout the generations. He was the main spirit in that region, and his power was such that he began to be worshipped as a god even outside the borders of Canaan. Over time, Beelzebub began to be worshipped in high places. Altars were built for him in the cities, and in practically every corner his image was raised. His most common representation was that of a horned character similar to a calf. This image linked him to Baal, since both shared a root in their worship. But despite the similarities, Beelzebub and Baal are not the same entity. Although both were worshipped as powerful gods, they had different functions and characteristics. In the time of the prophet Elijah, Baal was a god who did not respond, while Beelzebub had a higher status in some aspects. In fact, in the days of Jesus, he was compared to Beelzebub when some accused him of casting out demons by the power of this principality. It was then that Jesus responded, "If I cast out demons by Beelzebub, why don't your children cast them out too?" This response confronted the idea that those who worshipped Beelzebub could have some power, while Jesus made it clear that his authority came from the Almighty God, not from an evil spirit. The Hebrews also knew Beelzebub. They saw him as a god who could punish, but at the same time as one who showed a certain benevolence depending on the circumstances. Part of that worship included human sacrifices, especially child sacrifices, a terrifying practice that showed to what extent the influence of this being had corrupted humanity. According to tradition, Beelzebub was not only worshipped in Canaan, but the Philistines also took power over him and brought him to their lands. Beelzebub imposed himself as one of the main deities in those cultures. It is said that Beelzebub was not only an earthly god, but that he was originally one of the most powerful seraphim in heaven. When Satan rebelled against God, not only cherubs followed him as many think. There were seraphim, archangels and other celestial beings who fell with him, and Beelzebub was one of them. This being was fiery like all seraphim that had the power to receive sacrifices due to his nature of fire, and he was also known for his ability to fly. In his fall, Beelzebub became one of the most powerful leaders, only below Lucifer, Belial and Satan. His influence was so great that he even came to look so much like Satan that many people confused them, thinking that they were the same being. This confusion was what led many to compare Jesus with him, accusing him of acting under the power of Beelzebub. However, Jesus made it clear that while Beelzebub had been worshipped for centuries by both the Canaanites and the Philistines, his authority came directly from God. The influence of Beelzebub, although sufficient and feared, could never compare with the power of the Almighty God. There was a moment in history when Beelzebub and Baal joined their forces. Baal, whose name means Lord or owner of the earth, was considered a god of territories. In fact, in the story of Elijah, when the prophets of Baal invoked him, Elijah mocked, saying that perhaps Baal was busy traveling. Abel was also known as the god of the road, and this stands out even more when Jesus declares in John 14:6, "I am the way." This title contrasted with Baal because Jesus is the true way and not a false entity that responds to human whims. The union between Baal and Beelzebub was so significant that over time people began to think that both were the same being. However, Beelzebub was not. He had an even higher status since he was one of the main spiritual entities of evil according to tradition. These two entities came to collaborate on many occasions due to their similar levels of power, to the point where their influences intertwined so much that it was difficult to differentiate them. Even before the death of Yeshua or Jesus, Beelzebub and Satan were working hand in hand, planning how to capture Jesus' soul when he died. They did not understand that Jesus' death would not be like that of any other human. They believed that they could take his soul to hell to torture it and make it suffer as they would with any mortal. However, everything changed. When Beelzebub saw Jesus glorified at that moment, fear invaded him. He realized that they were not dealing with an ordinary man but with the Son of God. Tradition tells that when Beelzebub faced Jesus, he did it with all his strength. It is written, "Having cancelled the debt ascribed to us in the decrees that stood against us, he took it away, nailing it to the cross. And having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross." Despite Beelzebub's effort, Jesus defeated him with a single word. Although that word remains a mystery, the impact was such that Beelzebub turned against Satan, realizing that his entire plan had failed. Both began to argue, and Beelzebub, full of ambition, wanted to form his own empire independent of the power of Satan. However, according to tradition at that time, Jesus himself ordered Beelzebub to remain below Satan. Jesus made it clear to him that his authority would be subordinate to that of Satan, at least until the time established by God arrived. Although both would continue to rule together, the time of their power was also numbered, and both would end up falling. The power of the spiritual world is impressive and tremendous. In cities like Tyre and Sidon they also worshipped to these entities. That is why Jesus in his speeches he condemned those cities, saying, "Woe to you Sidon, woe to you Tyre, for if the miracles that he had done in other places had been performed there, those cities would have changed their ways." Beelzebub was not any demon, he was the prince in charge of all the demons with the exception of Satan and Lucifer, and this is where there is a lot of confusion. Although many times it is thought that Lucifer and Satan are the same entity, they are not. Lucifer has his own identity and such a high power that at one time he was compared to Satan. In the hierarchy of the Dark Kingdom there are 4 superior entities that govern: Lucifer, Belial, Beelzebub and Satan. Each has its own domain and influence, and it is said that Belial is a particularly powerful being. The Bible mentions that there can be no agreement between Christ and Belial, highlighting the extreme evil of this entity. Belial, according to the story, was one of the most beautiful archangels that existed, but fell in rebellion along with Lucifer and other celestial beings. This spirit has such power that when it takes form, especially when it adopts the appearance of a woman, it can break those who see it, especially in dreams. Belial has the ability to present itself as both a man and a woman, which gives it a particular influence over its followers and the spirits it handles. It is said that this being belonged to the group of those who worshipped and sang in the presence of God before his fall, which adds a tragic nuance to its story. So we are talking about 4 main entities: Lucifer, Belial, Beelzebub and Satan. These are the most powerful figures within the kingdom of darkness, and we cannot leave out Baal, who, although is not in the same hierarchy, is also part of this dark spiritual world. His name means Lord, and he competed with Adonai, the title which also means Lord in reference to the Almighty God. Baal was trying to usurp the place of authority that belongs only to the Lord Jesus Christ, who is the only true Adonai. This shows how vast and complex the spiritual world is. Paul expresses it clearly when he says that the kingdom of heaven does not consist of food and drink but of power, in the heavenly realm, both in the kingdom of light and in that of darkness. What is really known is power. Every day in the spiritual world there is a constant battle. The dark beings fight to maintain their power and dominion while the kingdom of light advances in its mission to save humanity. Belial in particular has under his command a vast army of demonic legions. It is said that he controls more than 800,000 legions, surpassing even other infernal princes. This fact shows us how strong his influence is. When Satan dragged the third part of the angels in his rebellion, those angels included angelic chiefs powerful, and each of those chiefs also brought with them their own hosts. It is like when someone convinces a mother of something by doing it too. She drags her children with her because they depend on her and follow her. In the same way, these fallen angelic leaders convinced their own troops to follow them in the rebellion, thus forming an army of darkness that has been maintained until today. The captains of captains convinced their battalions, and the generals in turn convinced their own battalions. In this way an entire army of fallen angels was formed under the command of the commander-in-chief Satan. He convinced me and I convinced you. I am your boss, but my boss is him. It was the chain of command that these beings followed. However, not all the angels were dragged by the rebellion. There were angels who remained faithful to God, even being under the authority of entities like Belial. Before the rebellion, these angels took an oath before the Creator, promising never to be unfaithful. When the temptation of rebellion came, some voluntarily left their celestial positions, but others decided to stand firm with God. These angels were not convinced, maintaining their loyalty, saying, "With God, I stay, I do not move from his side." What happened was that in the middle of this heavenly uprising, Satan did not act alone. He was like an archangel, a powerful leader. But he knew that he could not convince everyone by himself, so he began to influence the captains of high-ranking leaders, who in turn went to the angels under his mantle. This strategy was successful in dragging a third of heaven into the rebellion. However, there were others who said no, who did not let themselves be carried away. It is important to understand the logic behind all this. These angels and captains underestimated the power of God. At some point, they thought they could challenge and win. They knew that God is omniscient, that he knows everything and sees everything, but they still dared to rebel. Maybe they thought they could hide their actions, or that God would not react in time, and that is where they failed. There was such a strong rebellion that they believed they could wage a heavenly war and emerge victorious. Imagine, they said, if the first ones who rebelled could go that far, we can too. If we join forces, we can open the door to those who have already rebelled and enter with them. These spirits were so blinded by their ambition and madness that they could not see the reality of what they were doing. And although Satan was a key figure in this rebellion, he was not alone. The captains and leaders under his command also played an important role. They convinced many of those under his charge to join the rebellion. It is as if corrupt leadership flowed from above, dragging those below with them. Despite all this madness, these spiritual beings forgot a crucial detail: God hears everything, sees everything, and knows every thought. Maybe in their eagerness they thought they could hide from him, or maybe God in his infinite patience allowed them to go ahead so that their rebellion would be exposed and his judgment would be fair. But what is clear is that in the end they underestimated to the Most High. They believed that they could confront his power and that there would be some chance of winning the influence. Satan was so great because before his fall, he was a leader among the angels. As a leader of music and worship, he knew how to move the hearts of those under his command. Music has a deep power over the soul, and Satan, knowing this, he used his influence not only to worship God but to corrupt others with his ability to manipulate emotions. Throughout music he convinced many angels and archangels to follow him in the rebellion. He did not do it alone. As I mentioned before, he used the captains, who then convinced their own, in a chain of influence that dragged many into the abyss of disobedience. I am convinced that there were many meetings between the fallen angels before the rebellion was fully manifested. It was not something improvised. There was a careful planning, a structure in their disobedience. These beings came and went between the heavens, plotting and organizing to carry out their plan. I,